It is your buddy, Peace and Harmony with you here today. Much love going out to all the beautiful, empowered harmonizers. And we are zooming in and focusing in a little bit more in depth. And that was from a great viewer question. And that was to a request to discuss withholding of intimacy in a narcissist relationship. In other words, the power play, the alpha and the underdog, the hot and the cold, the yin and the yang. When things, get out of balance, when one begins to withhold their element, when one begins to withhold their fire, their masculinity, their femininity, or, engage in partial foreplay that does not ever fulfill. I wanted to also kind of expand and indulge in a little bit in that side because it can also be a leading on, which can also lead to lack of intimacy. In other words, they don't fulfill, they don't finish what they've started, like that great song by Van Halen. Come on, baby, whatever, finish what you started. I'm not going to sing here, but it's like, they're going to lead you, to a specific, they're going to lead you to the cliff, but they're not going to jump on the parachute with you. They're going to show you or lead you on or entice but not fulfill. That can also be part of the withholding of intimacy, where they get one hyper aroused and then pull away. And that's how the addiction is set up, because you then get into a state of crave and need, and then tinged with frustration, it can be very powerful feeling of unrequited love, unrequited physical release. So, when we look at that and how this then takes control over your body, it is also then another subtle form of power play when they are taunting and teasing and seducing, but not giving you the meat. In other words, it's all sizzle, no steak. And this can also be a form of withholding intimacy, or, saying, we're going to do that later, and then always trying to call the shots, but, never fulfilling it, or not being fully open or vulnerable. I call it like spiritually naked. They're hiding something. And so, this can be, in other words, they're cloaking their relationship in something else so that you can't see behind it. In other words, like I've accessorized my, cervical collar, it's just because this is warmer, etc. But I'm not ashamed to show this, but it's just a parallel or example, how they're withholding or keeping from view or keeping from experience that closeness, this fulfillment of perhaps what you've engaged in before. And then, being afraid to either cut it off if it's not right, or if you're married with this person and this is becoming a looming problem. It's sometimes there's physical changes, sometimes there's illness, sometimes life gets busy and they don't have time. I mean, that's a very real aspect of getting older, is that the libido tends to wane. Your reserve of energy begins to become less. In other words, what you used to have energy for, to stay up late, go to bars, go dancing, get up the next day, and you just kind of, scrambled through it. When you get older, that's really not the lifestyle. You don't have that same libidinal energy. So this can be a very real case, but maybe this person has not discussed it, or they want to save face and they just might give other excuses. Either way, if you feel that it's really becoming a barrier and it needs to be discussed, then it needs to be discussed, because you have to take ownership and right of your own body. You have to advocate for yourself. You don't want to live in that middle ground of taunting, teasing, seducing, and then having unrequited love. That a lot of people who stay with a malignant narcissist or a psychopath begin to accept this, half relationship, or at that unrequited level. It's like the impetus to, or it becomes then this state of, there's a term once again that I'm looking for. It'll come to me in a moment, but in other words, because your relationship then becomes too foggy. It becomes a lot of lack of clarity. It can be then engaging in a lot of the texting or the emailing or sending of pictures rather than having intimacy. And I know a lot of viewers have engaged in this. In other words, they do not want to have a relationship that's based on text. It's not substantial. It's not the real thing. And especially today now, with the information age, it can become a real burden and high maintenance if you're always having to either post things on Facebook or send them pictures, and then your relationship becomes all about that rather than the real thing. So you don't want to take your body and lose control of your needs and give it up only to this person's seduction, because especially psychopaths, they will keep their targets in that hyper aroused state for quite a long period of time, and then be along with other sorts of people and keep these people really worked up, and not being able to fulfill. And then people don't want because they're so hyper aroused, they can't leave the relationship. They can't. They're like forever addicted. They have a trauma bond, but even more a gaslighting and a psychopathic brainwashing that has kept them close at hand or overpowered. So you wanna detach from that hyper arousal state and say, no, this is my body, and I'm not going to take withholding of intimacy for this. This is not a good substitute. And so the most important aspect is when you look for that provoked potential. In other words, right when it starts and you see that relationship is becoming that, you go, no, thank you. I don't engage in relationships that are based on pictures and text only. A lot of the dating websites, they have a lot of this going on. It's the hookup culture for a lot of younger people. You can watch, there's a lot of documentaries about that on Netflix, especially for the younger generation. It's becoming quite normal. It's actually quite sad, and there's a lot of issues with that, and videotaping, and so that is not a healthy or exciting relationship make. So in the privacy of this video, when you can understand that and admit to yourself in a heart-to-heart way that you don't want that type of relationship because it is to be played, it is to be fooled, the psychopath will get people where they want them. In other words, hyper aroused in that concoction of desire and rejection, and keeping you seduced while they're doing this to a number of different people. That's how they keep. That's how they are rewarded. So most people would be horrified by doing this. So that's the tip of that's what typifies a psychopath, is that they can do things that would typically horrify another person and not feel bad. So most people would say, oh my God, I can't imagine doing this to a number of people and just keep a lot of people on the string. That would be exhausting. And so that's nothing to look up to. It's okay to say, no, that is not what I want. I don't want to be addicted to the what if. I don't want to be addicted to just the sizzle, because it's eventually going to fry you out. It's eventually going to get you to the point where you can't think straight, and then you're going to have a cognitive disorder where you can't put 1 and 2 together to get 3. You're going to feel depersonalized, dehumanized, objectified, and you before it gets too late. Literally to the point where people they do strange things that are out of character for them in order to get this person and then fulfill the relationship. They are out of character. They're, leaving their workplace. They're leaving their home when they shouldn't. They become on the hunt. They become on the investigation. They get paranoid. Are they seeing another? And then, the psychopath is just basically, saying, yep, this is how it goes. This is the dance that I'm making these puppets make. And they just sit back in delight, and they, basically get a psychopathic reward out of it because they're hypersensitive to dopamine, and they they engage in this high risk behavior. In other words, to see people scream and writhe and be highly frustrated is a sense to them that they are in control, that they're the one in power, and so they'll withhold, real love and real intimacy because they don't feel these things. They're very asexual. They just do this to see people, reactive, and to see people then destroyed by this, whether they've, moved their house or done all this investment to get this person as a relationship. So that's really kind of a sick pleasure that they take. So be very careful when you are engaging in a relationship where there's profound withholding of intimacy, because oftentimes it can become a very lethal and dangerous concoction of a lot of, sexual energy with unrequited desire, and tinged with that hyperarousal and the hypersexualization of really almost everything, can lead one very astray. So be wary of that. Don't feel like you're losing a great, exciting or thrilling person. Don't feel bad that you're missing out on the good part of life. Don't feel bad that you're unfulfilled, or that this person, if only you could handle it better. A lot of people tend to say that, I should have dealt with it more. That is the brainwashing talking. That is not reality talking. You need to get straight. It's like the person on drugs. Like, no, this is taking you away actually from what you truly love. You need to see that, and you need to be rigorously honest, and you need to see it's not giving you what you wanted. Do you see it now? Okay, so stop pining after that. Begin to, mellow yourself out, calm your body down. Begin to become into a more relaxed body. Be very careful that you are not addicted to that hyper arousal and withholding of intimacy, because that is what a psychopath will use in their arsenal. It's very, very sick, and it can also really, quote unquote, they will do this to destroy you from being able to engage in further intimacy relationships, because you'll always have this stress or fear or concern. So don't let it get to that level. Don't let it really get you to that core. Begin to claim your own energy, your own passion, and your drive, and know that it's yours. It's not, you're separating yourself from the cause of that distorted intimacy that you might have encouraged or you might have participated in with a malignant narcissist or a psychopathic individual. It is your buddy, Peace and Harmony, with you here today, and I hope that these videos do help. I was going to say entity, but because it's not a real, when you're with a psychopath, it's not a real relationship. It's just, it's an experience with someone without feelings. So it's very difficult to, there's really a difficult explanation. So anyway, it's your buddy, Peace and Harmony, with you here today, and I hope that these videos do help. Please share and please subscribe for more great tools, videos, discussion, and support.